Semen retention is your path to the Almighty, whether you call him Jehovah, Christ, Krishna, Hirakesha, so many names, innumerable names. The Lord is one, the omniscient, the omnipresent, the omnipotent spirit that rules us all. Semen retention is going to help you align with that being and feel him within you in a brand new way. Let me explain why. Hi, my name is Nakula Das, and I help men master their S3X energy so you can become a powerhouse both in and outside the bedroom. Go to the links in the description below. I've got some free resources for you, including the free ejaculation control guide, which is going to be your process in starting to alchemize your S3X energy. God, controversial subject these days. A lot of people don't believe in God. But God is not something to believe in. God is something to experience. That's the first thing that we should understand. Many people want to believe in God. I believe in God. But do you live with faith? Have you experienced God? See, I'm not interested in your belief systems. I'm interested in giving you the experience that I had many years ago and continue to have in my life, which is a direct experience with the Almighty. And the Almighty is within you, and you are within him. Now, what was amazing is when I started practicing, I was already on the spiritual path. I was already searching for the Lord. But what was amazing is when I practiced semen retention, how that experience exponentially grew. See, semen retention charges up your spiritual body or your light body. And when your aura and your light body, when your energy starts vibrating at a higher level, you start getting closer and closer to God himself, because God is the source of all energies. So the closer you get to that source, if you get closer to fire, you get hotter. You take on the qualities of that fire. When you get closer to God, you take on the qualities of God. And God is full of all opulences, wealth, fame, beauty, strength, renunciation, and knowledge. As you continue your path closer and closer to experiencing God, then those qualities will start emanating from you. And here's why semen retention helps you do this. Because semen retention is a scientific process, not a belief system. Semen retention transforms. When you're practicing semen retention, your semen, eventually, as you hold on for long periods of time, your semen starts to charge up your light body or aura. It starts to make you vibrate at a higher level, and it connects 3 levels of consciousness in which I'm going to speak of. Conscious, we'll say, is the first level, your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, and then the super conscious mind or the God mind. So here's what happens. As you practice semen retention, your body starts getting more and more stimulated, and therefore your conscious mind becomes more stimulated. As your conscious mind becomes more stimulated, the gap between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, or the male or the female aspects of consciousness is one, but to describe it, we're going to break it into parts. The male part is the conscious mind, and the female part is the subconscious mind. As the conscious mind is vibrating higher, it becomes more in union with the subconscious mind or the feminine aspect of who you are. And because those two aspects become aligned or in yoga union, then naturally it's the subconscious mind that sends out the vibration, which then speaks to the superconscious mind. And the superconscious mind is the God mind that connects us all, that holds the planets in places, and that creates universes, and that ultimately creates your life. When those 3 minds are aligned, that's when magic happens. So there's a nice analogy to give, which is, think of like an old school camera, okay? So not these digital cameras that we're using. The conscious mind is like the lens. And God will show you whatever he wants to show you. Everything is available through God. You know, we hear this in the Bible. Everything is available through Christ. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says so Krishna, if you don't know, is representing, let's say, God, and Arjuna is representing like me and you, the minute parts and parcels of God, the spirit souls, the individual parcels. So in the Bible, it says all things are possible through Christ, meaning everything is possible through God. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says to Krishna, or Krishna, says to Arjuna, anything you wish to see, you can wish to see in me. It's the same thing. Anything is possible through me. So the first order of business for the human being is to connect with God through an experience. To experience God, because once you experience God, anything else can is now in the realm of possibility. So the way that we get there and what we want to experience is we first must accept through a process of faith that yes, there is a God, that there is something higher than myself, and that I am part and parcel of it and can connect with this spirit. And then we use our conscious mind, which is like the lens, to focus. So, imagine you're taking a picture and you're going to focus on something. All right, I want to connect with God, or I want more money, or I want to improve my relationship, or my health I want to improve. You must focus on what you want to focus on. And then, let's say the film is the subconscious mind. You see, the film is just blank. It doesn't have any discrimination. It doesn't say, don't focus on that or focus on this. It could be compared to like fertile soil or like film that's just blank. And whatever you press upon that film, it's what is going to be on it. And it doesn't care whether it's good or bad. It has no intelligence. It has no discriminatory factor. It's simply just responding to whatever you're focusing on. That's the subconscious mind. And the superconscious mind, one aspect of God, is think of like paint or colors that have no form. And it just gets pressed upon the film. So you're looking through the lens, you're focusing on whatever you're focusing on, good or bad. I hate my life, I love my life. It's just focusing on it. That picture gets pressed upon the film. And then the superconscious mind comes and brings life or energy, color, and makes it the reality. Conscious, subconscious, superconscious. Now, once you realize the superconscious mind, you'll realize that within God, there's so many depths of God. So there's like an impersonal feature of God. Then there's God within our heart. And then there's the personality of God, like God, the man, the individual. Like I'm an individual, God is an individual. Okay? So you end up realizing God through stages. You don't necessarily realize God all at once, but you kind of get the first stage, then you kind of keep going, and then you recognize, oh my gosh, he's within me, and then you recognize he's within me, I'm within him, it's all God, what's going on? Who am I? Who is he? And then you recognize there are laws of God, and there's a personality actually playing out, and then you recognize, oh, there's a person. And you have a personal relationship with God. Well, semen retention, because lust is the reason that we take on the material body, all right? Because we want to then experience the material world, is why we, in consciousness, disconnect from God. In reality, there is no disconnection from God because God is omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. But God kind of puts a veil over us. As individuals, you're like, oh, okay, you don't want to dance with me anymore. You want to be the center and you want to go and dance by yourself or, do your own thing. And God's so loving that he's like, all right, I think it's way better to dance with me because I'm God and, I know how to dance the best. But okay, go ahead, have fun, right? It's an adventure. Go at it, right? So then he puts like a veil over your consciousness where you forget You have like a soul amnesia. You could even get so atheistic, right? There is no God. Okay. So with this veil, you then experience life without God. Welcome to planet Earth. Welcome to the material platform of the universe. Right? And so we take on a material body where we experience birth and death and old age and disease and miseries because we're disconnected from the eternal truths or realities of life. And so because this is what happens. Because lust is the reason that we've come here generally, semen retention is the counteraction to lust. What is the most lusty act that you can do? Sex? I would even say masturbation over it. Because it's totally like no one even has to be there. Like, talk about disconnection. You're by yourself alone. It's the most selfish act on the planet. Right? Right? You don't even have to have somebody else with you. It's totally self-absorbed, selfish, self-absorbed. So what ends up happening through the practice of semen retention and no fat, where you stop those most lusty, the manifestation of lust in its worst, let's say, way, you start to break the veil a bit. The veil gets a little bit looser. Nature itself goes, oh, you're not as lusty. Here, let me release some of that veil. And then you start to recognize more and more subtle aspects of life. And as you recognize more and more subtle aspects of life, your consciousness, the lens, you're no longer just S3X obsessed or orgasm obsessed. You're no longer just addicted. You're like, oh, I'm free a little bit. I can move a bit. See, that veil gets released. And think about that lens. It's not hyper focused now. Now it's like widening. It's like taking that lens and going wider and wider and wider. Consciousness is expanding. And because consciousness is expanding, the subconscious mind, the film, is able to take in more. And because it's taking in more, you're capturing more of the superconscious mind. More ideas, more paint, more colorful. And you start to recognize God and realize God as like miracles. And oh my gosh, my life is changing. And look how many things, because you're capturing so much in your consciousness that more things are happening and experiencing in your life. And all of a sudden life becomes colorful and playful, and you're like, wow, look at all of this. That pornography and all of these entertainments and all becomes weird because or uninteresting because you're like, you want to do that? But look at all this, right? You're missing a whole big picture here. You got the stars and the moon, and you're conscious of it all, and you're like, holy smokes, there's this whole thing going on. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, I'm all worried about this little thing. My mother said something I didn't like, or arguing amongst each other about bullshit. That's all symptoms of lack of God, lack of consciousness. And then, once you're connected to this bigger picture in the cosmos, then you start to recognize God is within me. And then you recognize you have a personality. You have likes. You have things, ways in which you would like to be approached. And God made you in his image. So if I'm a personality, God must be a personality. And therefore he has a way he likes to be approached. And if you can approach him, if you're interested in knowing him, you learn how to approach him. And then he's like, what up? You remember me? Because I remember you eternally. But you forgot me. But that's cool because he loves you like so unconditionally that he's just so happy that you remembered him, that he begins to flood your life with all the blessings because you and him are like father and son, or like lovers, or like friends, or like mother and daughter. There's many different types of relationships or tastes in which you can approach God. And that's why there's no one set way. That's why I don't particularly preach any one religion, because each religion, in a way, has their own flavor depending on the founder or guru of that religion. Generally, the way they approached, they'll attract others that want to approach the same way. However you approach, just make your approach. And semen retention is the most powerful way. Maybe one of the most powerful ways. I can't say it's the most powerful way, but it's definitely up there on the way to approach God, because it's working at the very root of why we disconnected from God in the first place, which is ultimately our lust. And then we make the devotional path from lust to love. And when we get to love, we get to God. Peace.